I'm Doug Cooley, CEO of Pinellas Community Foundation.
And I'm Meg Logie, VP of Philanthropy at PCF.
Welcome to The Giving Current, our podcast where we talk about stories of impact from our community, information about charitable giving, and introduce you to some of the great people in our community that are helping make it a better place for everybody.
Make sure to follow along on our website, pinellascf.org. You can see past episodes of the podcast and on social media. So today on our podcast, we're joined by Gentry Byrnes. Gentry is Chief Fiduciary Officer, board member, and co-founder of Adelphi Trust Company. She has a 30-plus year legal and fiduciary career in St. Petersburg. She was previously the board certified by the Florida Bar in elder law. And Gentry is also passionate about giving back to the community and served on many boards in our area. Welcome to our podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
Glad you're here. So for people who may not know Adelphi Trust yet, how do you usually describe what you all do?
Oh, it's a good question. So we started Adelphi Trust about 3 years ago, and we are a full-service wealth management, investment management firm. We do investment management, financial planning, trust administration, and estate settlement. So we help our clients basically navigate life's ups and downs, everything related to their financial life, as well as their estate planning and the goals that they want to accomplish at their death.
And it's women-owned?
It is. It's women-owned. When we first met with the Florida regulator, we're licensed under the Office of Financial Regulation, and gave them our business plan. Not even sure if they were open to another trust charter in the state of Florida. And they were the ones that told us that they went back through the records, and there's never been a bank or a trust company that was founded and owned by women. So when we raised capital, it was very important to us to make sure that more than 51% of our shareholders were women.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's special.
What led you and your co-founders really to start Adelphi?
So we've all been in this industry for a long time. The four executives all have more than 25 years experience. Katie, our CEO, Katie Pimble, and I both have more than 30 years experience. And we saw a need for another private trust company in the state of Florida to provide very hands-on, personalized experience and customized investment management. A lot of trust companies were centralizing their business. And so clients were, beneficiaries were having to call a 1-800 number in Atlanta or Charlotte or Austin, Texas is a big one. And so it was getting away from that traditional, real hands-on trustee services that, quite honestly, I had when I was working with trust companies when I was practicing law. And so we saw just that need in this marketplace. And then you've also read the demographics and how many people are moving to Florida, the wealth that's going to change hands, and so much of that wealth is going to be in the hands of women. Mm-hmm. And we see that women in this field have been underserved in some ways, not in all ways, but that was important to us.
Yeah.
So as the Chief Fiduciary Officer, for people who are not familiar with what a Chief Fiduciary Officer is or does, what does your day-to-day look like?
Well, my day-to-day changes every day. As a startup, we do a little bit of everything. So sometimes I'm working on running the business and the financials of the business or working with shareholders. Other times I'm reviewing trust documents and very hands-on involved in an estate administration. And sometimes I'm meeting with clients about their charitable and their estate planning goals. That's my favorite thing. And another reason that I personally was interested in starting Adelphi Trust, my prior roles, I was getting further and further away from the client. Yeah. And so, just this morning, met with a fairly young couple, in their 40s, that have a taxable estate and want to plan for their children and for some charities that are meaningful to them. And that's a part of the job I really love.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So how did Adelphi first start working with Pinellas Community Foundation?
Well, I've been familiar with Pinellas Community Foundation my entire career, from when I was practicing law to other roles that I've been in. And so I guess our very first client was a charitable distribution that did not have any restrictions around it. And then we've had multiple clients that have opened donor advised funds. And we have one we're working with right now that is considered a charitable remainder trust.
Oh.
So I think our first one was that unrestricted outright distribution. But it's been, we always talk to our clients about their charitable goals. And some of them don't have any. But many clients don't think about charities that they've supported during their life, providing, even if it's a small gift at their death, or more tax-efficient ways to do their giving.
I love when financial advisors really integrate that charitable piece.
Yes.
It's really helpful.
Well, it's important to clients.
It is.
It really is. And we are, I mentioned before that we're a full-service wealth management, team. And so we want to talk to clients about everything that's important to them, not just a distribution to their children.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great way to build relationships with clients too. When you do ask those questions about charitable interests, you find out more about
what they're interested in.
Right. It could be what they're interested in. It could be something in their life that had a significant impact on them. But the opportunity to be able to build relationships through just talking about charitable giving is a great opportunity. From your role and perspective, how is a community foundation, how is their role a little different in the field than maybe large institutions, national providers of DAFs, or financial institutions? What do community foundations do that are a little different?
Oh my gosh, it's the local presence and the knowledge and the relationships. So, I've had clients that have had DAFs with very large financial institutions, and they don't really have a contact. They don't really know anybody. Maybe it was their financial advisor that helped them establish it. Maybe that financial advisor is retired or moved elsewhere. But for clients, especially clients that have an idea where they want to give, but they're not really sure, you all help them find that perfect spot that meets where their passion is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the fun part.
It is. I find that the fun part too.
Yes.
So they may say, well, I'm interested in supporting underprivileged children. Well, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And then you dig a little bit further. Well, my mother was a music teacher, and I'd want to provide something to elementary schools in certain demographics. I want to provide to their music program. And then, you dig a little bit further, and then you're connecting them with the school that has that need. And that is the fun part.
Yeah.
Yes.
And larger institutions don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Adelphi recently became a trustee of PCF. Tell us about that.
Right. Well, as our relationship expanded, we had one client that was going to establish a larger DAF, and the more we thought about it, we should be serving as a trustee to be able to help facilitate that with our clients. And it was a very easy process working with your team to establish that relationship as a trustee. And so now our clients, whether they want their DAF to grow and want to be a little more aggressive or want to be a little more conservative, and they're going to be making, regular grants and transferring assets in regularly, but continuing to make distributions, charitable distributions out of their DAF, we're able to accommodate that, with your all's assistance.
Yeah.
We're very excited to work with you all. You're very involved in the community, and what kinds of organizations have you spent your time getting involved with? Where's your passion?
Oh, that's a very good question. And I would say over the years it's changed a little bit. I have been very, very blessed. And so I like to give back to areas where individuals are more vulnerable, whether that is children. I've been involved in a group that provides a fun outing for foster kids every year. Because I was board certified in elder law and I have worked with elderly clients, dealing with organizations that support the elderly have been very important to me. And most recently, I have gone on the board of the St. Petersburg Free Clinic.
Oh, good.
And food insecurity, and for the, individuals that, families that both have jobs but still can't manage to pay for groceries and Little League for their kids, has been eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, giving back in that area has been important. And then I've been very involved in the legal community over the years. And so I serve as the treasurer of the St. Pete Bar Foundation, and we do a lot in the community to make sure that there's equal access to justice. And, attorneys get a bad name, and there's some, really good attorneys doing a lot of community service in Pinellas County, and highlighting that is very important.
We get to see that through our board, the board of the foundation, and some of the attorneys that are involved with us, and then see what they do to get others involved in pro bono initiatives.
Yes.
Or our legal aid organization. So we appreciate you doing that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, my mentor, and some of your listeners may know, Louis Adcock with Fisher and Sauls, was an icon not only in St. Petersburg but in the state of Florida. And I was a baby lawyer, probably 2 weeks in, and he said, you're gonna volunteer at the community law program. And so that was instilled in me as an early attorney, that it's very important to give back to the community where you serve.
Yes.
Philanthropy is kind of passed down. I like that. I like that it's passed down through work too. I've not heard that before, but I like that.
It is. And there's some great businesses, you all know them in our community, that encourage that
Yes.
give their employees time off to volunteer, get very involved in local charities and fundraising for local charities, and do, certain fundraising drives within the business. And, that's a draw for employees
Yes.
to work for those organizations.
Yes. So we talked to a lot of people about donor advised funds, and I think some people still have fuzzy ideas about what that is and how it works. How do you explain DAFs to somebody that are hearing about them for the first time?
Well, a donor advised fund, in my opinion, is the easiest way to start giving. And even if the client has already been giving, and even if they have a substantial estate and want to leave a lot to charity, years ago, I was seeing a lot more people doing private foundations. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of administration that's involved, a lot of cost in setting up a private foundation. And the donor advised fund now is so much easier. And every donor advised fund is different. I have learned that dealing with clients that are out of Pinellas or out of Tampa Bay. Some of them are a lot more restrictive, where you only can make a request that's on, you all can probably say it better than I can, but a fund that's been established for the community, or whatever the actual community foundation wants you to give to, so to speak. But it's a way to be able to give money to your DAF. You get a charitable deduction immediately, so there's a lot of tax advantages, depending on the client. And then you make those decisions later on of what charities that you want to, what charities you want to give to. Mm-hmm. So it provides a lot of flexibility. Clients don't have to have a lot of money to give. You all, I believe, still the minimum DAF to establish is $5,000. Is that right?
Yes.
$5,000. And when I explain that to clients, they're really surprised. And then, we have had some younger clients that have been giving back to the community and want to start at that $5,000 or at $10,000 and let it grow a little bit, but still make some gifts, along the way, as they're trying to decide what charities they do want to support in their community.
And some people do it, because you mentioned the private foundation. Some people do that in a DAF instead of a private foundation.
Yes.
And it saves a lot of work, but they can get their entire family involved if they want. They can have a grant process.
Yes.
There's a lot you can do with a DAF without having to file with the IRS.
Exactly. And you all allow the titling to actually be the for example, the Byrnes Family Foundation or something like that. And so that gives the family feeling like they're, similar to a private foundation. I already talked about the thing I like to do the most is meet with clients. I love meeting with clients and their extended family. And it doesn't always work. There's times that a client wants that privacy. They don't want the second generation to know the size of their wealth or what their estate plan is. But the ones that do, it's nice to see that next generation understand what the parents' goals are, and especially from a charitable perspective. And I have been involved in families, whether it was through a private foundation or through a DAF, that the parents' charitable giving was different than the charities that the next generation wanted to benefit. But they learned through that process, and how the parents then start to, really learn what's important to their adult children. And it's just great discussion around the table when that happens.
So you mentioned having a DAF, and you do. How do you use your DAF?
So those charities that are important to me, that's where I give, typically through my DAF. There is, one tax advantage of establishing a DAF is to be able to donate appreciated assets, whether that's shares in a closely held business, whether that's appreciated stock. My guess is that's probably appreciated stock is probably the biggest asset class you see.
I wish it were more common. It's quite common for us, but I wish more people would understand the value of giving appreciated assets.
Let's talk about that value, because that's something we want the world to know. Why are you not donating your appreciated stock?
I mean, it's just such a great way, especially we have some clients that they don't even know what the basis is in their stock. And so it's a great way to avoid that capital gains. And so I started, my family started doing that, I don't know, many, many years ago, and at a small amount. But we would donate appreciated stock to our donor advised fund. And there's some years that we don't do it every year. I forget what CPAs and tax individuals call it, but it's like lumping your bundling in 1 year, so you can take advantage of that deduction when the standard deduction is higher and not everybody itemizes. So I've done that a few years, and sometimes I do it every year. And then, we use it to make like I said, to the charities that mean a lot to us, we're making requests to go out to those charities. I talked about how I love to meet with families. We have done that with our own children. So we, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I can't remember exactly whether they were in college or out of college, but part of our end of the year Christmas gift was we were going to make a donation to a charity of your choice. And so they have to research it, they have to decide, and then so we've continued that every year. And once again, it's back to, oh my gosh, why did you choose this? And my son was in a fraternity that had a children's hospital that they raised money for, and so that's what, he chose. My daughter actually worked for a charity at the time, so she wanted our gift to go to that charity. And once again, it was through the Pinellas Community Foundation DAF, so there weren't, other than being a 501c3, there were no restrictions. So they both live out of state. So those gifts went to two charities out of state, because you all don't require it to be here.
Right.
We want to give back to Pinellas County, right?
Yes.
There's so much need here, but it's not a requirement.
I think that's a fantastic way also to get to know about what charitable interests your children have. And so what a nice way to sort of open that discussion without having to have a overly formal discussion, but to be able to say, hey, we want to give to a charity that you care about, so give us the information and we'd like to know what it means to you.
Right.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's, as your adult children get older, your relationship changes with them.
I don't know about this yet.
And yes, you still have the teenager. Eventually, they get to the point where they listen to you and they don't know everything.
You'll know what that's like.
You'll get there. But it engages your adult children in a different way. And to the now they know how much it means to us that this year, one of our Christmas gifts was they made a donation to the Pinellas Community Foundation. You know,
So
small,
awesome.
but it was nice. I mean, it was the only gift I opened that I teared up because it was a card
Gentry.
that explained that. And so, you know, that meant a lot to me. It was a nice gift.
Oh, and
my
you've
children.
really done it. You've actually passed that philanthropic gene down to your kids. You know, you got that importance
Right.
of philanthropy. Good job.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I hope so. It was passed on to me. So, you know, hopefully we'll continue that.
For sure.
So what do you wish more people understood about thoughtful charitable planning?
So that it doesn't have to be big. You can start small. You know, you can start with a smaller donor advised fund. Start by doing your research on what's important to you. Where have you volunteered your time? Maybe you volunteered with an organization, but you've never given to that organization. And, you know, for individual charities that have volunteers that may not have the means, even $10. I mean, just start small, whatever it is, and you can build on that, you know. I think that would be the biggest. And then to learn about all the different options. It's not just a donor advised fund. It's not a private foundation. I mean, there's ways to establish charitable trusts that can benefit your family, for you during your life and for your next generation, and ultimately a charity. So talking to your estate planning attorney about what works best with what your goals are, and really do your research.
I want to thank Gentry Byrnes for joining us today, and we appreciate all that you do and the relationship with the Adelphi Trust, and just appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
We love working with you all. It is just such a pleasure to get to work. You're so easy to talk to get on the phone, to get anything done, and we really love talking to you and hearing your accent.
Yeah, everybody comments. They all know my voice. And we enjoy working with you all. I mean, it has really been a great partnership. And I mentioned it earlier. One of the reasons we started Adelphi Trust Company was to provide that personalized service and to answer the phone, right? I mean, to be there and to be accessible for our clients and our community partners.
You are.
Yeah. So thank you all.